Many of us have just put in our gardens. Maybe we planted seeds months ago and we're now getting rewarded with greens. Perhaps we've been eating asparagus, rhubarb, and now strawberries, knowing we are far, far from a full harvest. Yet we have a bounty of friends now here among us. A diversity of friends to weather the natural disasters of dryness, disease, and this disturbing, unjust wind of life. And so it is good and right to give thanks. Thanks for feisty friends, as tart as apples. They leave marks on us. They get us to do things we would normally have never done, like swimming below a waterfall in the warm moonlight. One feisty friend of mine recruited me to become a pharmaceutical sales rep and took me on a run through rural Wisconsin, stopping at every doctor's office and every McDonald's for a Diet Coke, onward to a hotel where a speaker was flown in and told a series of passionate lies about why some drug was better than the other. The doctors there were really only there for the tomato, red onion, and blue cheese salad, the wine, and maybe to mingle. Then there was the pharmaceutical conference. Afraid to fly, he asked that I accompany him on a quirky 1,000-mile drive to Dallas, Texas. He taught me how to not get caught speeding, how to get discounts at hotels and choose a room and a bed with the best defensive positions, and I'm not sure why. We were students of a theology professor who helped us unravel our minds from fundamentalism. What if he's wrong, my tart friend asked along the way. What if we will fry in hell for our liberated thoughts? And we broke into laughter. The more tart, the more memorable. Scallion friends stay with us longer than the feisty tart ones do. So let us give thanks for them as well. After you realize you have a shared history together, you grow entangled, and you can't separate without a part of you dying. A continuous friend of mine, even after a bicycle tour where we argued to take the flat, long, direct route or the steeper, more scenic Michigan dune route, even with hunger and dehydration and an attempted mutiny, we did not go our separate ways. Years later, I told him I would help him pour the foundation for his backyard pizza oven. I arrived late and the cement was drying. He lashed out for my tardiness. He lashed out on me for my tardiness, and I feared things might be over, but the depth of our roots proved to be too tangled, too close, and we remained continuous friends. From freshman algebra to rock bands, accompany each other on our senior recitals, double dates on rustic lake cottages, getting married within a year of each other, both having 2 boys. We remained continuous even when he was diagnosed with leukemia at the too young age of 38. Knowing we might lose everything with the hush of time, I made a promise I would help raise his boys. I walked him through the shadowy valleys, recognizing in his struggle my own immortality and my own acceptance of random unfairness. Now we are in gratitude for remission, and I can't fathom cooking without scallions. The continuity of friendship over tragedy and sickness gives us hope. I've also been friends and colleagues with the Reverends Ann and Wade since my time in New Mexico. And they were friends and colleagues with the Reverend Max Coots. And I imagine he was friends and colleagues with those reverends who came before him. a continuous line going back who knows how long.
I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find, and I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
As my first example of friends in Max's poem, I chose to give thanks for crotchety friends, as sour as rhubarb and as indestructible. The dictionary says crotchety can refer to a person given to odd notions, whimsical fantasies. The dictionary also adds grumpy as a synonym. Do I really give thanks for crotchety friends? I'm not so sure, but I am thankful that there are some folks who can put up with me as a friend, and I can be crotchety. I can hold odd, unpopular positions and be grumpy when others don't agree. I have a propensity to speak my mind, to voice complaints against humanity, putting up with low-scoring soccer matches that settle ties with a shootout, witnessing so many people that must have some kind of music constantly sounding in their ears, as just two mundane examples. The tendency to being crotchety seems to only grow more prevalent with age. I feel less constraint in expressing contrarian views. Who needs the approval of others? Well, I do. I cannot really do without the friendship of others. Friends are such a rare and valuable asset. I do remember giving a sermon right here, well, right there. When I turned 50, I called it The Next Grumpy Old Man. I ended with a fervent wish that I would not become such a person. So I actually aspire to being a not so crotchety older man who can still be your friend. Invite me over for some coffee and a slice of your home-baked strawberry rhubarb pie. That's the only way I have ever eaten rhubarb. We'll talk. I'd like that. My next selection from Max's poem is Old Friends Nodding Like Sunflowers in the Evening Time, and Young Friends Coming On as Fast as Radishes. What comes first to my mind is the same group of folks that I've come to know here through our church in New Mexico. There's a cohort of 6 guys in this congregation, all of us born in the same year. We're not exactly nodding in the evening time of our lives, because I can also count these people as my young friends. How can that be? Because they help remind me of my own earlier days when I was young, or at least younger. As we share memories of our past, it's so easy to understand and feel the common bonds that shaped us. Our differences developed in the same soil of culture and society and history, as did our similarities. To wander through these stories is to pass through experiences where we were all once young. Churches are wonderful and special institutions in our society for enabling such time travel. Congregations bring together many different generations and offer the great opportunity of making friends across these divides of age and history. Where else in a given day can you go to get the reaction of the young to a time for all ages and participate in the joys and sorrows that can recount news of full lives, including the biographies of those who recently died. One of the great privileges of ministry has been to witness the wonderful kaleidoscope of ages that passed through these doors and hallowed these walls, from welcoming infants to marking great milestones of longevity. Church was a place we could develop many of these precious encounters into friendships. I hope you will take advantage of these rare but promising opportunities to make friends as well, even if you don't, like someone I know, like radishes. Forget about your antipathy to science fiction or fantasy featuring dragons. Go forth boldly to learn from another, from someone who may be younger, and perhaps cultivate a new friend. For days arrive, inevitably, when friends become harder to keep or make. Moving to a new place, retiring from work, enduring isolation in a pandemic, being forced into new living arrangements as age and health demand. Even finally facing the aloneness that we all must confront in our last steps into eternity. Have we made friends with the universe?
And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Max begins his poem by giving thanks for children and ends by giving thanks for those friends now gone, like gardens past that have been harvested, who fed us in their times that we might have life thereafter. In this way, Max invites us to see death as part of the great circle of being. We feel the presence of those who have died, and we carry them with us, sometimes in our DNA, always in our hearts. This lesson was brought home to me by a vegetable that, surprisingly, Max does not mention in his poem, broccoli. Years ago, after my father died, Kathy Montan offered me a broccoli seedling to nurture, much as I nurtured my memories. I took it with some trepidation because I do not have a green thumb. What if the plant dies? I thought. What will be the symbolism in that? On the other hand, my dad had died, so there's that. I planted the broccoli in our garden, and wonder of wonders, it thrived. It produced many meals for us over that summer, some of which were even eaten by Wade. And every time I cut a stalk or admired the turn of a leaf, I thought of Dad, sometimes with a heart tug, sometimes with a smile. By fall, it was way past time to say goodbye to the broccoli plant, but just as I hadn't been ready to part with my father, I resisted pulling up the plant. One more day, I thought. And then I realized how often we wish that for those we love. I pulled it up and laid it on the soil. When I went back to compost it a few days later, lo and behold, the dead plant was blooming, covered with tiny yellow flowers. One last gift from Dad's broccoli. From death comes new life. From sorrow comes beauty, often when and where we least expect to see it. This interweaving of loveliness and pain is part of all our lives. Those friends now gone who fed us in their times remind us that love does not belong to us. We belong to it. We rest in the grace of the world, and from somewhere deep inside, we are able to say to those who have gone before, wherever you may be in this vast and wonder-filled universe, thank you. Thank you for all you have given, for all you have been, for all you still are. I never asked Max whom he was thinking of as he wrote about each of the vegetables in his poem. But when he penned those final lines about friends now gone, I wonder if he was remembering not just those he knew best and loved most, but also the ancestors who built this church and on whose shoulders we all stand. Those who long ago preached from the pulpit, or sang in the choir, or made the coffee, or sat in the pews watching the play of light through the stained glass. Whenever Wade and I visit Canton, I love to sit in the sanctuary and watch the afternoon light turn the room gold. The pandemic has kept most of you from being able to do that this past year, but I hope you will take some sanctuary time when you're able and remember those who have gone before. Like our own departed friends and family, no doubt our church ancestors were ordinary people who worried about their jobs and their children, and who, like us, mixed moments of courage and moments of pettiness. Perhaps they argued about what color to paint the sanctuary or how many hymns to sing on Sunday. Perhaps, too, they debated about the abolition of slavery and women's right to vote. Together, they worked through conflicts, rejoiced at births and weddings, cared for those who were ill or alone, wept with the pain of grief. And from the everyday events of their lives, they built a community that has been a liberal religious presence for nearly 200 years. I wish they could know how grateful I am. Maybe they do. So yes, let us give thanks for a bounty of people and for those now gone whose lives inspire us. Their love leads us on. In that spirit, I'd like to go back to the generation before Max Coots and close with the words of another Max. The Reverend Max Capp was the last dean of the Universalist Theological School at St. Lawrence and served as our main preacher from 1956 to 58 when this church was between ministers. Max Capp died in 1978, but like the voices of our other ancestors, his words call to us across the years. Many are the windows that will stay darkened unless we light them. It is our watch now. Come then, apostles, come great hearts, come dreamers and singers and poets, come builders, come healers. It is we who must be keepers of the flame. It is our watch now. Amen.